Welcome to Fintech Insider interviews coming to you from Her Majesty's Treasury this week. That's rather impressive, I have to say. I'm David Brear, and it's my pleasure to be joined this week by John Glen MP, who is the Economic Secretary to the Treasury. How's it going, John?
Not too bad, thanks, David. Yeah.
Well, thanks for making time for us and actually letting us in here as well. This was really exciting. I guess for all of us in the UK, we've probably got a bit more context on your particular role, but we've got lots of international listeners.
Sure.
Can you give them a bit more context about what the EST's role actually is?
Okay, so there's 5 members of Parliament who are ministers in the Treasury. There's the Chancellor, the Chief Secretary, the Financial Secretary, the Economic Secretary, and the Exchequer Secretary. So the Economic Secretary is responsible for the city. So I do sort of banks, insurance, anything to do with the City of London. And then I also do financial inclusion, the Debt Management Office. I deal with sanctions and anti-money laundering, economic crime, green finance. And fintech is also one of those elements. So it's a very busy role. I've been doing it now for 18 months, and it's a fantastic role because obviously the City of London is such an important part of our economy, and to be sort of overseeing and be responsible for the interface between Parliament and regulators on really key parts of our economy is a great privilege.
Well, and like you say, it's a super busy role, but within that, fintech being, financial services more broadly, but fintech, I guess, being something that must be taking up a lot of your time right now.
Well, fintech's a really exciting bit of my brief because it's growing fast. We're independent. It's not just me saying it. It's an independent acknowledgement that the UK is sort of a world leader in this area. I think we saw 15 billion of investment last year. That's been followed up by figures early this year too. So it's exciting in a world that's changing rapidly to see really the application of technology to financial services, and to see this country flourishing is wonderful.
Yeah, it's been a great thing, great news story for us, really internationally as well as locally. I guess when it comes to fintech, I know I've seen you speak quite a lot about it, but is this something you use on a day-to-day basis as well?
Well, I do. I mean, I obviously got banking apps and various investment apps. I mean, I shouldn't be giving a plug to anyone in particular. I think there's some areas, though, that I'm excited to see further evolution. The full application of open banking is really important. And, it'd be great when you're renewing your insurance. That's what I look forward to, some better products there I think there's a lot of work going on. But it'd be good to see some progress there. But, it's exciting. I think everyone who's got a device, which is virtually everyone, is looking for new products and new ways of accessing better financial service products all the time.
Yeah. And I guess in terms of over the last 18 months that you've been in this particular role, what's the achievement that sort of stands out for you in that space? You sort of mentioned open banking a little bit there, but I mean, is that the thing that stands out, or is there it's almost hard to pick, I guess, with everything that's happening here?
Well, we've had quite a lot of progress. I mean, open banking is still to be fully realised. I mean, we had the fintech tech sector strategy last year, and I think that sort of crystallised some of the things that we want to do in terms of better interface between regulators in different jurisdictions with fintech bridges. We announced one in Australia last year, but also we're really keen to get behind entrepreneurs and to actually make sure that they can be facilitated through the onboarding process. So we've got these onboarding guidelines, which are really important, and allow entrepreneurs not to be held back by interface with regulators. We've given the FCA a strong competition obligation, and so some of the work they've been doing is really helpful to move things forward quickly. And I've had a number of conversations, round tables with fintech entrepreneurs, and I've been very pleased with the generally positive response they've had to the way that we've, with Fintech Nation, Tech Nation, in terms of what they've been doing to try and grab entrepreneurs and get them to a point of delivery quickly.
Yeah, well, it definitely feels like that's been the catalyst, to your point around the statement around competition. And actually, I guess both here and now further seas, we're seeing Singapore and Hong Kong and various different places trying to emulate that sort of push and that ecosystem that's created here. Do you see fintech being an export now, as well as something that we're changing our own environment on?
Well, we're very well positioned in the UK in terms of what we've got to sort of bringing together the City of London, the regulator, and digital technology and technology generally. That's creating a real hub here. But yes, it is something we need to export. And what we need is optimal pathways of dialogue, business to business, government to government, regulator to regulator with the countries you just mentioned. Because, of course, many of those have got growing consumer markets where the appetite for better financial services products and better ways of accessing niche new products is there. So, I say we need to grow in all dimensions, locally, domestically, and then, of course, internationally as well.
Sounds good. I guess with that context, we probably can't get away from talking about Brexit for a second. But I mean, all of the ingredients that have made this ecosystem what it is today, do you think they will be affected in any way negatively by what's happening with the context of Brexit?
Well, temperamentally, I'm an optimist, and I was responsible in the Treasury for doing all the work to prepare for a no-deal scenario. But that is clearly not where we want to be. I think that there's enormous resilience to the City of London. I mentioned the three elements of the technology heritage, the access to finance through the City of London, and a strong internationally well-regarded regulator. That isn't going to change. And I think the beauty of fintech is it is less focused on which jurisdiction. It prizes innovation. And if you can innovate and get regulatory approval, you've got a market opportunity. So I'm not, for broader reasons within my portfolio, relaxed about where we are. We need to resolve the exit path from the EU. But I think fintech is proved to be very resilient over the last 3 years. And I see no reasons why it will be damaged going forward, whatever the circumstances of our exit.
I completely agree with that. I think, as you say, all of the elements are still here.
Yes.
If anything, it gives us some opportunity to potentially take advantage of the changing landscape. I guess maybe the only last thing to talk about then is, where are we going with this? What's the vision that you have from a future perspective in terms of where fintech or the London financial services ecosystem can get to?
Well, I think what I would say is that the focus can always sometimes dwell a lot on creating interesting tools for wealthy people to access better financial services products. What I'm interested in is the whole financial inclusion agenda. We still have, I think it's 1.2 million people who are unbanked. And I think fintech provides opportunities to allow people to access financial services products, to be able to access credit at a more affordable rate, to verify their credit worthiness more efficiently than traditional bricks and mortar banks. And so I think the application of the fintech phenomena to the poorest in our society, providing real solutions to allow them to budget better and to access financial products more easily, is where I think there's great opportunity. And I want to see that facilitated and extended and urgently too.
Yeah, it feels like, as you say, there's potential to focus really into small groups, doesn't there? Whether it's unbanked or, the remedies funds that have sort of been unlocked now. It feels like SMEs are going to get some amazing amount of focus there as well. Yeah. Wealth as well, to your point, it's actually being in a situation where digital can just facilitate a different conversation, isn't it?
Well, a few weeks ago I went to visit Funding Options, who essentially provide an online marketplace of funding for SMEs, giving a more appropriate and tailored match to the needs of different small businesses. And I think that principle is obviously applicable to the poorest in society with different profiles and different needs. And that's the sort of work that excites me, because I think it means a step change in terms of it's better than people in unauthorized high cost lending or exploitative actors who really don't care about what's happening to the individuals involved.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a relentless focus on the end consumer, isn't it? And I find the matching there really interesting, because we've got really big organizations learning, again, sort of rekindling of that fire for customer centricity. You've got fintech players coming in who are born into the digital age, who are by nature very sort of consumer centric. So it's an interesting sort of battlefield that's really sort of shaping out now.
Well, and it's happened so quickly. I was just thinking as you were talking that I left university in 1996. And I remember a friend in the States telling me to contact her by email. And I was like, had to book a slot in a room. Now, we do virtually everything on the device that we carry in our pockets, from our banking, our scheduling, shopping, our delivering our food. And, we've seen a transformation in the generation. So it's exciting to think about with respect to fintech, where we will be in 20 years' time. Yeah. Because I think the area that's quite interesting too is to anticipate needs. So in the era of open banking, how can you say, well, actually, this is your behavior over the last 3 months. Can we suggest these interventions to make your life function better? Yeah. This is where it gets very exciting and transformational. For society.
Completely agree. We talk a lot about the difference between products and services, and actually that move, as you say, to a service where you can avoid people going into overdrafts or avoid people defaulting on loans, then anything that's preventative rather than restoration post is a much better course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think fintech's right at the heart of that. And so we're seeing lots of work going on in small firms getting up to grips with some of these ideas. And the full outworking of that is obviously exciting for the country. And I think it's an enormously strong sector, employing lots of people, more and more people. And I don't see what's going to impede that from further growth.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, I know you're a busy man, so we'll let you get back to your day. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, David. It's been a great pleasure to speak to you.